Well, we started dating for a while, but I was open to her, and I told her about it. I don't know, was it the first? No, it wasn't the first time. Fourth, we didn't keep count, but we stayed open.
I would say within a couple months.
And I told her I had epilepsy, and of course she was like, okay, what's epilepsy? And I told her it's no big deal. She didn't know.
Right. And he said it was controlled by medication. So
I didn't tell her only 80% of the time. I didn't tell her 100% of the time.
You know, I trust what he was saying, and so I didn't really know what epilepsy was. I'd never seen a seizure, and so we were just being friends, and you know, when he's telling me that, and he's open, and I thought, well, he's on medication, just like you take I asked him for a headache, you're going to be fine, and but I had no idea that, you know, it wasn't controlled. I mean, the medication.
Yeah, that first seizure I had scared the heck out of her.
It was scary because I didn't know what was going on. He just his face started to get pale, and his eyes started going back in his head, and he started to shake a little bit, and his head started turning and like this, and kept going and going. I said, I didn't know what was going on. It was scary. I'm in the house by myself, and my goodness, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Then he starts going into a full-blown seizure.
So I put on a good show. So.
It was the first one I've ever seen, and it was just scary. I didn't know how to handle it. I thought about putting a spoon in his mouth because that's the thing that popped in my head, thinking so he won't swallow his tongue. That's what I was thinking, but I had no idea there was more.
And the thing is too, at that time I was more of a hunk as far as I was 6'4", 215 pounds. I was huge, and she was like 135, whatever. Anyhow, after when I had the seizure, she told me I fell on top of her, and she was got knocked onto the sofa. I fell into her, and she onto the sofa, and she was able to squirm out.
It's like dead weight, and 215 pounds.
That was muscle. I was an athlete, so.
There's no way that I can move his body or control his seizures or whatever. So I moved things out the way, so he wouldn't hurt himself.
But she kept her calm afterwards. I remember coming out of it, and I was like, it took me a few minutes to catch on, like, oh, well, I had that seizure, what's going on? And she was calm about it. She wasn't like, you know, what did you do, what's going on? She didn't get freaked out by it.
Well, I was getting ready for work, too, and I called his brother, and he kind of talked me through it and said, just be calm, he's going to be okay, I'm coming right over. And he said, don't worry about it, and I said, what is he doing now? He's asleep. He sleeps it off, you know. I was a little bit educated too by going to the support group meetings, hearing what everybody says and what Tom was saying, that when they have a seizure, you don't have to put a spoon in their mouth so they swallow a tongue. There's no such thing. You just make sure they're turned to the side, and so that the tongue won't block the airway. And so when he has a seizure,
I have a little excitement to it there.
When he has a seizure, I just let him lay there, and he rests or whatever.
Well,
we have our parents. They were very supportive and understanding.
I was a big basketball player. I liked basketball. I couldn't play on any teams, but I liked basketball because I could go out in the court all by myself and be all by myself and play and practice. Then go play on courts and playground, pickup games and stuff. I played against guys who went on the pro ball, so I had a good taste of it and see what it was about. And Angie.
They were understanding, the guys on the court, but there was a time.
Well, there were times.
There were times that they did not understand, and I was looking for Tom one day, and he had a seizure, and I guess nobody could move him, and so he was laying on the court, and it was hot that day, and he came home, and he looked like he'd been out on the beach. I mean, he was blistered. He was red.
The thing is, those guys.
I was a little upset about that. Why nobody? In the beginning, it was challenging because I didn't know if I was going to be able to stay in this relationship. You know, even my dad talked to me, you know, somebody, you know, he has an illness. My dad didn't understand, my mom didn't understand it, but I knew he was for real. I mean, he's not somebody that just sits back on you. He's very uplifting and positive. He's a
Oh gosh, you make my head too big. Won't be able to walk out the door now.
He's a fighter. He doesn't give up. I never met anybody like him. He's just
It's a good
understanding.
challenge.
And he's like nobody I've ever met. You know, he's just very understanding, and he cares. And that's somebody, when I show that he cares, and he shows love and respect and understanding, and somebody that tries and keeps going, what he's been going through, I said, this man's incredible. He would try to, I mean, even when he tried to get these little piddly jobs, nobody gave him a chance. You know, he's had education, he's very
Well, including
educated.
kindergarten, I got 19 years of education. So I tell you, I can hold my paintbrush pretty darn good.
And he just didn't give up. I mean, he's ready to work, and he couldn't drive, so I was his chauffeur, you know, driving.
I told her how to drive.
But when I couldn't drive, I was working or taking care of the kids in schoolwork and stuff. But he would get out and get on the bus. He'd be the only one on the bus sometimes, going to jobs,
Well, going to ride the
stuffing
bus.
envelopes, whatever it takes to support the family. And he just,
And I was a good house husband.
yes,
She
very
wasn't
much.
money carrier, I was a house husband.
You talking? I didn't need a housekeeper. I come home, you know, clean, and.
Just
But
basics.
he was just feeling like any man, I guess. He wants to do more for his family. So I think he's done very well. And then he picked up
Thank you.
business. You know, he took business administration, and he just took the paint business and went with it. And he never had a crew, so he figured, you know, after the surgeries, the walls didn't talk back to him, so he could just,
My mind could get back rewired since
Yeah.
the walls don't talk.
yeah.
Well, when you have epilepsy, you don't have money. You just don't have a job. People won't give you work. You can't make any money. But ironically, the people with epilepsy, I've read up on this in other books, they care more about doing a better job. Employees can actually relax better around them because they know that they'll work harder than the others to keep the job. And they just got to be taught to learn, okay, they had a seizure. So what happened? And some employers have learned that. They've learned that somebody's going to have a seizure. Well, that's what you do. Okay, so, no, go ahead and let them go to work.
Well, there's a situation where we went to a banquet one time, and everybody was around us, and Tom was, you know, being an Irishman, he's all into it, talking and stuff, and all of a sudden he was having an aura. Do you know I picked up in that conversation? I started talking to the people, and
She took over.
I could tell. I had to do that. There were times where I had to just step in, and then all of a sudden he came back and picked back right up back to that
Somebody
conversation.
seen a movie or
It
something.
was just crazy. And one time he was, I took him down to VCU because he was in college, going to be a business administration. And he started, and he's supposed to be quiet in there, so he starts out like he's smacking and stuff. And I said, oh, God.
Smacking my lips. And
I said, here we go. And I felt my heart drop because we're in a public place. And there were times that it was a little stressful, but he came right back out of it and started picking up again where he left off.
Well, I never let epilepsy hold me down. I mean, it happened, it happened. It's like, I learned a long time ago, I can't change that. I'm not going to worry about it. Just going to move on.